Hey guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. My name is Laura, for those of you that do not know, and today I'm going to be talking about all of the favorite books that I had in the year of 2018. I officially read 100 books in 2018, which is actually so crazy because in 2017, I'm pretty sure I read like 16 books. Like, I barely read anything, to a point where I don't even think I did a favorites video last year. So this year I definitely was back on my reading game. I read 100 books and I have 12 today to talk about that were my favorites of the year. Now with that, they didn't all come out in 2018, but I just happened to read them during the year. Some of them did, I'm sure, but others probably came out years prior. But nonetheless, they are my 12 favorite books that I read during the year of 2018. So I'm just gonna go through and share what the books are and kind of give you guys a little bit of a synopsis on what they're about so that you guys can hopefully check them out. But I'm gonna get started. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and give the video a thumbs up if you love favorites videos. But I'm just gonna get into it. The first book I'm going to be talking about is Listen to Your Heart by Casey West. This is a book that I gave 4 out of 5 stars, and it was in fact a 2018 release. You guys may or may not know, but I absolutely love Casey West and her books. I've read absolutely all of them, and this was her release for the year, which I was super excited about, and it did not disappoint at all. This is a YA book about a girl named Kate who is in high school, and she joins this class where they're all going to be a part of a podcast team for the school, where they do an advice column, and Kate is very shy and reserved and doesn't want to be like on any on-air projects. She'd rather just like work in the background, but she gets chosen to be the on-air person for this podcast along with somebody else, and she has to answer advice questions. I guess all you really need to know is that there's kind of an ongoing theme with this one person that calls into the show, and I don't really want to give too much away because for me, when I read the book, it was all about like the surprises and the things that I didn't expect. So I don't want to like ruin anything for any of you guys, but if you love cute books, cute little romance books, especially Casey West's books, they're all so adorable. You'll definitely like this one. It's super short and sweet and easy to read, and I highly recommend it. The next book on my list is Stay Sweet by Siobhan Vivian. This is another YA romance book, and I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. I really loved this one. It was one of my all-time favorites of the year. In fact, I did do a full book talk on it, so I can link that down below for any of you that are interested. But this book follows a girl named Amelia who every single summer of her high school life, she's worked at this ice cream place called Mead Creamery, and it's kind of all about girl power and like togetherness. And the last summer that she's going to be working there, the owner unfortunately is unable to continue working for the ice cream place, and it gets taken over by a man who actually happens to be a pretty young man. And it's kind of crazy because all the girls are like, what's going on? Like, we've never had a guy, things are going so differently now. And Amelia kind of has to decide what's important. She has to step up to the plate. And it's a romance book, but it's also about friendship and feminism and a lot of really great, amazing topics that I think teenagers should definitely be reading about. And it was just altogether like a really wholesome book. I don't know if I'm describing it very well. I definitely talked more in depth about it in the full book talk, but all you have to know is that it's super cute and such a fun summery romance book. But it's not just romance, like, it's definitely has emphasis in other areas as well, which is what makes it such a great and well-rounded book altogether. So I really recommend it. It was one of my favorites of the year, and it was just wonderful. The next book on my list is actually a series, and it is called Lost and Found by Nicole Williams. I gave the first book in the series 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. This is a new adult romance series, and it follows a girl named Rowan who is from Washington State. She's just graduated high school and she really wants to go to art school, but she kind of has like this bad girl, troubled past, and her mom's like, listen, like, you're not going to art school unless you smarten up, get it together, get a job, do something. So she gets sent to live in Montana with her mother's best friend's family who owns like a ranch. And upon arriving there, she is working on this farm, and there's a boy, the son, that lives there, and he's this like good boy, cowboy type, really cute. His name's Jesse, and obviously something goes on with that. This is a really fun book. I feel like a lot of times we read a ton of good girl, bad boy stories, but this one kind of switches, and it's such a fun, cute book. such an adorable romance. I loved it so much, and the writing is great. It's just a really altogether great new adult book. I know they're kind of hard to come by, but I absolutely adored this story. And like I said, it is a series, and it's really good as a series as well. So you could read the first book or you could continue on, but I highly recommend the book. It's really great. The next book on my list is Little Do We Know by Tamara Ireland Stone. This is a YA book that I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. You guys may or may not know, but one of my favorite books of all time is Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. So it was so wonderful that she had this new release in 2018 for me to read, and I absolutely loved it. It was such an incredible story. It follows 2 girls. It's told in dual point of view, Emery and Hannah. And at one point in their lives, Emery and Hannah were like the bestest of friends, so close, nobody could be closer than them. But something happened that we don't know about, and they're not friends anymore. And so the book follows both of their individual paths and kind of unravels the truth behind why they're not friends. They both have very different and distinct personalities, and it's just kind of like a mystery, but it's also like super heartbreaking and heart-wrenching, and talks about so many incredible and important issues that I was not expecting. So it's a really great book, and it was not what I was expecting at all. I know I just said that, but it was kind of crazy. I do, however, want to note that there are a few trigger warnings that I can think of for this book, and I'm going to put them in the bio down below. So if you don't care, you don't have to look, but in case you're wondering what they are, I'll put them down below just for you. But yeah, the book overall I really loved. It was so wholesome and great and had such a wonderful message, and Tamara Ireland Stone's writing is insane, so I highly recommend this book. It was really good. The next book on my list is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars, and I loved it so much. I had seen the movie when it came out in March, I believe, but I had not read the book yet, so for Booktubeathon over the summer, I decided to pick up the book, and I read it in one day. It's so wonderful. If you guys don't know the book, it's about a boy named Simon who's a senior in high school, and he's gay, but nobody knows. His family doesn't know, his friends don't know, and something happens where he meets this boy online who's also a closeted gay kid at the same school as him, and they start emailing. And I don't want to give too much away because, you know, that's kind of like the basic premise, but a lot happens obviously, and it's just such a wonderful book. Becky Albertalli's writing is incredible, and it's just such an important and wonderful story, and I was so glad that I read it this year. If you have seen the movie and you haven't read the book, or vice versa, I did find that there was a lot of differences. It keeps kind of the same general message and the characters, but a lot of differences occurred that I wasn't expecting. So if you're like, oh, I already watched the movie, I don't want to read it, I would recommend reading it because I think it's different enough that you would enjoy both. But the movie is also really great. But this was definitely one of my favorites of the year, and I'm so glad that I got around to reading it. The next book on my list is All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover, which is an adult romance book, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. This is another book that I did do a full review for, so if you're interested, I'll have that link down below. But this book was kind of unlike any of Colleen's other books. If you guys don't know, I'm a really big fan of Colleen Hoover and her books. I just think she's such a wonderful storyteller, and she just has a way with words that doesn't compare to so many other people that I read. But this book follows a married couple, and the book is kind of told in 2 time periods. One where this couple is meeting for the first time, and another where they're struggling in their marriage years later. And it was just such a heartbreaking story, but it was so wonderful, and just, oh my god, like, it was so good. It might be one of my new all-time favorites from Colleen Hoover. I loved it so much. Again, I talk more about it in detail in the full book talk, but with Colleen Hoover's books, I feel like you shouldn't really say much before going into them because, you know, her books are just crazy in general. You read the back and it's like not even what the book is about, but I really recommend this one. It's very different from all of her previous books because it is more of an adult book, but it was fantastic. I loved it so much. The characters, everything about it was wonderful, so definitely recommend it. The next book on my list is The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This book I gave a 5 out of 5 stars, and it almost might just be my all-time favorite book of the year. It probably is. It was one of those books where, like, I would go to class and I'd be like, okay, when am I gonna be home? I need to be reading this book. It's so good. I want to finish it. Like, I want to be anywhere but right here just so I can read this book. I was so enthralled with this story. If you guys don't know, it's about this girl named Star who loses a friend to police brutality while she's right there with him, and it's so tragic and horrible, and it kind of follows the after effects of that. And it's such an incredible story. If you don't know, the movie came out this year. I saw it in theaters multiple times. The movie was excellent. Like, I totally recommend it. If you're not going to read the book, at least please go watch the movie. It's so important. But the book is also just so incredible. There's so much more to the book as well if you've already seen the movie but you haven't read it. I highly recommend this book. It was so amazing, so well done. Probably my all-time favorite of the year. It was that good. So I highly recommend it. If you're gonna read anything from this video, read that. It has one of the most important messages, and it's just such a phenomenal book. So really recommend that one for you guys. The next book on my list is also a part of a series, and it's called The Deal by Elle Kennedy. This is a part of the Off-Campus series, which consists of 4 books. These are a new adult romance series. This is a companion novel series in which every single book follows a different couple that are kind of all a part of the same friend group. This friend group all go to college together in Boston or Massachusetts, I don't know, and they go to like a fake college. I live in Massachusetts. It's not a real college, but it's really cute. They're all hockey players, all of the boys. The first book follows Hannah and Garrett, but my favorite is the 3rd book, which is about Allie and Dean. So I recommend the whole series, but I'm just kind of talking about the first book because it's the first in the series. But it's about Hannah, and she finds Garrett, the hockey player, extremely annoying, but she agrees to tutor him to get kind of advice back from him about her and relationships and stuff like that. And it's just like a really good series and super cute, and you know, it has its like little fun moments. Obviously it's a romance book, but I highly recommend it. It was recommended to me like so many times before I finally picked it up, and it ended up being one of my favorite series that I read all year. So highly recommend it. It was super fun and cute and has a lot of fun storylines, so highly recommend. And I gave every single book in that series 4 out of 5 stars if you're curious. The next book on my list is called Stepbrother Dearest by Penelope Ward. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. This is a romance book, and I absolutely loved this book. And I know so many people are turned off from the whole idea of it being like a stepbrother kind of romance book, but I promise you, this book, it's so not weird at all. They literally know each other as like step siblings for 5 days. Like, it's not even like a big deal at all. So if you're gonna go into the book, don't be like nervous about that aspect of it, because it's really not a big deal. But it's about this girl named Greta, and she lives with her mom and her mom's husband that she got remarried to. And for the summer, or for the school year, I believe actually, the school year, her stepdad's son, who lives on the other side of the country, decides to come and stay with them for the school year. This book also takes place in Massachusetts, and he comes and stays with them but leaves abruptly after a little bit of time. But him and Greta kind of find this, you know, connection together. The book takes place during their senior year of high school and then picks up halfway through the book 7 years later. So I know that sounds so confusing and weird, and you're probably like, what's going on? But there's something about this book that I absolutely fell in love with. The romance, the story, the drama, it's just so good, and I loved it so much. Penelope Ward's writing was really fantastic, and really this book stood out to me amongst all of the hundreds of romance books that I read this year, and I highly recommend it. The next book on my list is another romance series. This is called the Stagedive series by Kylie Scott. The first book being called Lick, which I know sounds kind of weird, but the series is about a band of musicians, and lick is like a guitar term, I don't know. But the first book is about this girl named Evelyn who goes to celebrate her birthday in Vegas with one of her best friends, and she wakes up the next morning in a stranger's hotel room, and his name's David. She doesn't really know him, but he is the lead guitarist in this really big band, and they're married. And she doesn't remember anything. She's literally like so lost and confused, doesn't remember the night before at all. David remembers the night before, and he's like, okay, this is something else. But that's kind of where the book picks up. I don't really have much else to say about it, but this series was so good, and I loved every single book. My favorite was book 3. It follows a different member of the band every single book, so again, it's like a companion novel series, which I'm a really big fan of, so obviously I liked this one. But it was really, really cute and a really good romance, super fun, exciting, has lots of drama as well. So I highly recommend it. I had never read anything by Kylie Scott until this year, and I was very pleasantly surprised with this series. So much so that my next favorite book is actually the first in the spin-off series from Stagedive, which is called the Dive Bar series. Sorry, I was looking at my phone. The first book is called Dirty, and it is about a boy named Vaughn, who we actually meet in the 4th book of Stagedive. So you would read all of Stagedive first, all 4 books, and then start reading this series. But this book follows a girl named Lydia, who on the day that she is going to be getting married, finds out some crazy stuff about her husband, and she decides to flee the scene, and she ends up at this guy Vaughn's house, who offers her to stay there for a little bit because she's literally a runaway bride. And that's kind of the start of their friendship or relationship. And this is such a fun book. And again, it's a series, so you kind of hear about different people that are friends and live in the town throughout the 3 books in this series. I believe there's going to be a 4th book. It's just not out yet. But again, both of these series are super fun. I gave probably every book 4 out of 5 stars, and I highly recommend it if you're just looking for something fun to read and you want some romance. So really, really good. Okay, and the last book on my list is another romance book, and this is called Stuck Up Suit, and it's by V. Keelan and Penelope Ward. I don't know what happened at the end of 2018, but I fell down a V. Keelan hole, and I've been reading all of her romance books. They are so fantastic. Literally, if you wanted to binge romance books and you're looking for somebody that is a good writer and actually holds like a super wonderfully well done, captivating story that you're going to be blown away by, V. Keelan is where it's at. All of her stories have crazy plot twists and turns and drama and romance and amazing, amazing stuff. So I highly recommend anything by V. Keelan, but this book just happened to be one of my favorites. It is about this girl named Soraya and this boy named Graham. Graham is like this really big executive guy who works at a super big company, or he owns a company. One day, Soraya and Graham are on the train together, and Soraya can't help but notice Graham because he's like barking orders to somebody on the phone. And when he gets up to leave for his stop, his phone falls to the floor. Obviously, Soraya grabs it, and at some point she has to bring the phone back to him. That happens, and they kind of form this interesting relationship. Not romantic relationship at all at the beginning, but you know, stuff happens. That's really like scratching the absolute surface of this book, because so many crazy things go on in this story, like stuff I can't even talk about because it would be a spoiler. But when I'm telling you to trust me, if you like my book recommendations, if you like romance, if you like crazy drama and plot twists, this book is literally for you. I want to do a video talking about other V. Keelan books just because all of her books are so wild and crazy and I love all of them. But this one I particularly recommend. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I highly, highly recommend if you're a romance fanatic. It was so good. Okay, well those were my 12 favorite books, or more since some of them were series, that I read in 2018. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and maybe got some new recommendations to check out for yourself this upcoming year. Pretty please leave me a comment down below letting me know what your favorite books of the 2018 year were. I would love to hear some recommendations from you guys, so please do that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video though. Make sure to give it a thumbs up if you did, and subscribe to my channel down below if you haven't already. You can also follow me on all of my socials, including Goodreads, which I will be posting every single book that I read during the new year on there, so you can go follow me. You can also follow me on my Twitter and my Instagram. I'm always posting stuff on there as well. But other than that, I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful day. Happy New Year, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!